My girlfriend said, "It just happened," while I tried to remember when she stopped loving me. For a second I honestly thought I'd misheard her. My ears were ringing, my palms were hot and slippery against the edges of our coffee table, and the room felt tilted, like someone had quietly moved all the furniture an inch to the left. She was standing in front of the TV, arms crossed over the oversized hoodie she'd stolen from me 2 winters ago, eyes red but strangely dry. On the coffee table between us, my laptop screen was still open on the messages I'd found, little blue and grey bubbles that had cracked my chest open 30 minutes earlier. "It just happened," she repeated, slower this time, like I was stupid, and needed the words enunciated. Behind her, some frozen frame of a Netflix show stared back at us, subtitles stuck on, "This isn't what it looks like," which would have been hilarious if my heart wasn't doing that thing where it felt like it was trying to squeeze itself into a smaller space. "Just happened," I echoed, and I could hear how flat my voice sounded. My tongue felt too big in my mouth. I watched her flinch at the tone, at the way I said just like I dropped something heavy between us. I wanted to grab the laptop and shove it at her, make her read every line out loud until she stopped pretending it was some kind of spontaneous weather event. Instead, I just stared, at her face, at that familiar freckle near her left eyebrow. At the string of her hoodie she was twisting around her finger so tightly it was cutting into her skin. "Ellie, you don't fall and accidentally land in someone's bed," I said finally. "You're not a cartoon. This isn't banana peels and gravity." She shut her eyes for a second, exhaled through her nose, then opened them again. "You're being dramatic," she said softly. You're making it sound like I woke up and planned to hurt you. I didn't. I swear I didn't. One thing led to another, and it just happened," I finished for her, my stomach turning. I leaned back on the couch, the crappy upholstery scratching through my t-shirt, and tried so hard to figure out the math of how we'd arrived here. At her saying "it just happened" and me scrolling through the proof that it didn't, I couldn't help myself. The question that had been sitting in my chest like a stone all week pushed its way out. "When did you stop loving me?" I asked. It was a Tuesday night, for what that's worth. People always say big moments in life come on big days. Birthdays, anniversaries, Christmases. Mine apparently like midweek evenings after a long, boring workday when you're just trying to figure out whether it's worth cooking or if toast counts as dinner. I'm 29, she's 27, and we've been together just over 4 years. Lived together for 2 of those in a third-floor rental that smells vaguely like our downstairs neighbor's cigarettes and the cheap coffee we buy in bulk. By all the usual measures, we were fine. That's the word we both used a lot. Work was fine. The relationship was fine. Life was fine. I didn't realize fine was apparently the step right before I slept with someone else and don't know how to explain it. We met at a housewarming for a mutual friend. One of those nights where you don't know half the people, but everyone's pretending to be closer than they are because there's too much cheap wine. Ellie was in the kitchen arguing with a guy about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. "It does. I will die on this hill." And I walked in mid-sentence just as she said, "If you want to eat fruit on your dairy bread, just admit you hate yourself and move on." "You hate yourself?" I asked her, grabbing a paper plate. She looked me up and down, taking in the hospital ID still clipped to my belt loop. I'd come straight from a long shift, my badly tucked shirt, my sleep-deprived face. "You look like you do," she said deadpan, then burst out laughing. "I'm kidding. Relax, I'm Ellie." I liked her instantly. She was funny in that sharp, quick way that makes you want to keep up. We spent most of the night yelling over music about TV shows and arguing about the best kind of chips. She teased me about being a nurse, "So you're good with bodily fluids, that's hot." I teased her about being a marketing coordinator, "So you write emails and pick colors." At the end of the night, when people were spilling onto the street to call Ubers, she scribbled her number on the back of my hand because my phone was dead. "Text me when you've slept," she said. "You look like you might die on the way home." I didn't die, I texted the next day instead. We did the standard thing for months: bars, brunches, awkward early sex, slowly collapsing our separate lives into overlapping circles. I met her parents, who were aggressively friendly and bought us way too much kitchen equipment for Christmas. She met my mum, who liked her instantly and told me loudly, "Don't mess this up, Daniel," in front of her. The first couple of years, loving her was easy in that stupid, dizzy way that makes you think anyone who complains about relationships is just doing it wrong. We had our fights, about money, about mess, about me working nights and forgetting to reply to texts. But underneath it there was always this base-level certainty. I never questioned whether she wanted to be with me. She'd curl into my side on the couch, steal my fries without asking, grab my hand crossing the street. She'd show up at my night shifts with coffee sometimes, hair in a messy bun, eyes ringed with dark circles because she'd stayed up to see me. If you'd asked me a year ago when she stopped loving me, I would have said she hadn't, that she still did, that she was just tired like I was, stressed like I was, that we were adults with bills and responsibilities, not teenagers writing songs about each other. I would have pointed at the little things, her grabbing my sleeve when we watched horror movies, the good luck texts before my job interviews, the way she'd tuck her cold feet under my legs in bed without asking and said, "See, that's love." Now I'm sitting here trying to rewind our life like a badly edited video, looking for the exact frame where everything went weird. Was it the promotion? That's one option. About 8 months ago, Ellie got bumped up at work. She'd been at this small digital agency for years, churning out social media campaigns for cafes and local brands, and then they landed a big client and her manager basically exploded from stress. They promoted Ellie to account lead, which meant more money, more pressure, more late nights. "I'm finally not the lowest rung of the ladder," she said, dropping a bottle of cheap sparkling on our kitchen counter and rummaging for glasses. "That's great," I said, genuinely happy for her. "Now you can be the overworked second lowest rung instead." She raised her glass. "To upward mobility and selling my soul," she said. "At least make them pay you a decent rate for it," I replied, clinking. The first few weeks she was on a high. She'd come home buzzing, talking fast about pitches and mood boards and client meetings. I'd sit at our little dining table, still smelling like hospital antiseptic and night shift sweat, and listen, feeling weirdly proud. Watching her talk about something she loved was like watching someone stand in a beam of sunlight. Then the sunlight got harsher. That's the only way I can think to put it. Instead of being energized, she started coming home exhausted and wired at the same time, like her brain couldn't fully switch off. Her phone became an extra limb. There were always notifications, Slack, emails, WhatsApps from a group chat with her account team. "Who's Liam?" I asked one night, eyeing the way her face lit up at a message. She smirked. "My work husband," she said. "Relax, he's gay. He calls me his spreadsheet wife." I laughed. She showed me a meme he'd sent. It was harmless. That's why I remember it, I think. That moment of, "Oh, okay, this is fine," right before a whole new name entered her vocabulary. His name was Adam. I'd seen his face before I knew it belonged to him. He showed up first in a group photo on her Instagram. Agency trivia night. 6 people crammed into a booth, all holding cheesy trophies. Ellie tagged a few names I recognized from her stories, her manager, her copywriter friend. One guy in the corner, leaning in slightly toward her, wasn't tagged. Tall, dark hair, stupidly symmetrical face. "That the new guy?" I asked, scrolling. "Yeah," she said, glancing over from the cooch. "That's Adam. He's the senior creative they poached from some fancy agency. He's like, honestly a bit too cool to be here, but he's nice." "Too cool how?" I teased. "Does he vape and wear beanies indoors?" She snorted. "He owns a motorbike and a French press," she said. "And he says things like narrative arc in meetings. It's fine, he's harmless." If I could go back to that moment, I'd grab my own phone and throw it off the balcony. Not because the photo mattered, but because of what I did next, or didn't do. I clocked this guy as a caricature, not a threat. I didn't mark anything about him in my brain. He was just another one of Ellie's colleagues in stories about stupid clients and bad coffee. Life kept going in that weird way it does where you don't notice anything changing until one day you wake up and everything's different. Ellie's hours got longer. Pitches kept getting moved to early morning or late afternoon, which somehow meant she had to be at the office from 8 till 8. She started showering as soon as she got home instead of collapsing on the couch with me. Little things. Our routines diverged. I moved to a different ward and started doing more nights. She started going to team drinks after work that blurred into networking events that blurred into. We ended up going for a nightcap after the event. It was just a thing. I started making dinner for one more often. I'd plate up leftovers for her, stick them in the fridge with a post-it that said, "Heat me up." With a dumb face, and some mornings they'd be gone, and some mornings they'd still be sitting there, untouched, like I'd left a note for a stranger. It's easy now to go, "Oh, that was a sign." At the time, it felt like adulthood. Everyone around us was busy. People cancelling plans, rescheduling, saying we should catch up properly when things calm down, even though nothing ever does. Ellie's best friend broke up with her boyfriend because he couldn't handle her career taking off. I told myself I wasn't going to be that guy. I was going to be supportive. I was going to be chill. Except I wasn't chill, not really. I noticed when she stopped sending me memes during the day. I noticed when "love you" at the end of texts became just X. I noticed when she stopped reaching for my hand on the tram. I noticed when sex became rare, and when it did happen, rushed, like something to tick off a list rather than something we sank into. "Are we okay?" I asked her, 3 months into her new role, when we were both in the kitchen doing dishes. She frowned, hands submerged in soapy water. "What do you mean, are we okay?" "I don't know," I said, realizing I didn't have a neat list prepared. "You just seem far away lately." "I'm tired," she said. "I'm stressed all the time. I feel like if I drop one ball, everything falls apart. Of course I seem far away. I don't even feel present to myself half the time. Can we do anything to make it easier? I asked. I said we on purpose. She shrugged. Unless you can go to my job and tell them to stop being psychos about deadlines, no, she said. I just need you to understand that this is a big deal for me. I've worked really hard to get here. I know you have, I said quickly. I'm not asking you to quit, I'm just saying I miss you. I'm right here, she said a little too sharply. I wanted to say not really. Instead I dried a plate and said, okay. Looking back, that might have been a fork in the road. If I'd said, no, actually, something is off and I want to figure it out with you, maybe she would have opened up. Or maybe she would have resentfully stayed and cheated sooner, I don't know. You can torture yourself with hypotheticals forever. What happened instead is that I scaled back my complaints. I decided I didn't want to be another stress in her life. I told myself it was noble, not cowardly. Meanwhile, Adam stopped being a nameless guy in group photos and turned into a supporting character in her stories. Adam did this stupid thing in the pitch today, she'd say. Adam spilled coffee on his shirt and had to present with a giant stain. Adam reckons you're the only nurse he's ever heard of who actually likes their job. I told him you're a weirdo. I learned he had a girlfriend, kind of, that he surfed, that he hated coriander, that he said things like fuck it, let's just do something fun in meetings, and somehow got away with it. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't slightly jealous. Not in the she's going to leave me for him way at first, more in the you get to see this version of my girlfriend I haven't seen in a while way. At work she sounded alive, animated. At home she seemed drained. I told myself that was normal. We give our best selves to strangers and our tired leftovers to the people we trust, right? That's what all the relatable tweets say. Things came to a head in the dumbest way, a birthday. My 29th specifically. It landed on a Friday. I had the day off, she had work. I wasn't expecting some massive surprise party. I told her multiple times I was happy with a low-key night, dinner somewhere, maybe drinks with friends. She said, leave it to me, I've got a plan, with that little smirk that used to make me excited. The plan, it turned out, was her leaving the office just quickly at 6, getting stuck just quickly at a bar afterwards because the client just quickly wanted to run through some changes, and me sitting in a restaurant by myself until nearly 9, chewing on breadsticks and making awkward small talk with a waiter who kept saying, I'm sure she'll be here soon, mate. She arrived eventually, hair messy, cheeks flushed, eyes bright in that slightly drunk way. I'm so sorry, she said, sliding into the booth, kissing me on the cheek. It's been insane. You would not believe the day I've had. You could have told me to come meet you at the bar, I said. I tried to keep my voice light. She waved a hand. No, I wanted to do this properly, she said. I didn't want the whole team there. This is our thing. Our thing? Halfway through mains, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and this little smile flickered over her face before she locked it again. Who's that? I asked, stabbing at my steak. Just work, she said. They're still freaking out about the pitch. I let it slide in the moment. Later that night, when she fell asleep on the couch with her phone wedged between the cushions, I didn't. Here's the thing, I'm not a snooper, or I was. I used to be the guy who'd say, if you're going through each other's phones, your relationship is already over. I genuinely believed that. Privacy, trust, yada yada. But that night, looking at the way her screen lit up her face when she thought I wasn't watching, the way her thumbs flew across the glass, the way she laughed at something I couldn't see, something in my brain slipped. Her phone buzzed beside her, face down, one new notification. I stared at it long enough that the screen dimmed, then I picked it up. It opened without a passcode. She'd always been lazy with that. For a second, guilt burned hot in my chest. Put it down, a voice in my head said, if you pick this up, whatever you find, you own it. Apparently I'm worse at listening to my own advice than I thought. The notification was from WhatsApp, a chat pinned at the top with a rocket emoji and the name. I tapped it. The most recent message was from him. You survived the client dinner. Above it, her reply from earlier. Ellie barely stuck there till 8. Made D wait at the restaurant like the terrible GF I am. His loss, more wine for you. Ellie are a bad influence. You love it. My stomach dropped, not because it was explicit. It was, not yet, it was tone, the easiness, the way her guilt about being late to my birthday dinner had been turned into a joke for someone else. I scrolled weeks and weeks of messages, memes, song links, complaints about coworkers. Nothing I could point to and say this is cheating in that undeniable courtroom way, but the undercurrent was there. Late-night texts about not being able to sleep, him saying call me I'm awake, her saying can't D's here with a crying emoji, him replying sneak to the balcony, your neighbors are more interesting than him anyway. I put the phone down like it had burned me. I sat on the floor next to the couch watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, mouth slightly open, hair fanned out, the tiniest bit of drool at the corner of her mouth. Familiar, my chest hurt. I didn't confront her then. I know, internet strangers feel free to yell. I told myself I needed more evidence. I told myself I might be overreacting. I told myself emotional affairs were grey areas and that maybe I was reading too much into banter between colleagues. Mostly, I think, I just didn't want to turn my life upside down on the basis of a feeling, even if that feeling punched me in the gut. What I did do was start paying attention, too much attention. I noticed when she'd smile at a notification and angle her phone away slightly. I noticed when she'd mention Adam in stories more. Adam said this, Adam did that. I noticed when she started caring more about her hair on days she just had internal meetings. And I noticed when she stopped saying, love you, out loud. That's the bit I keep going back to when I lie awake, the quiet shift. She'd still text it sometimes, trailing a love you X at the end of messages about groceries or timing, but in person it faded. We went from love you, have a good day at the door to see ya and a quick peck. It wasn't dramatic, it just thinned like someone slowly turning down the volume. When did she stop loving me? Was it standing in the office kitchen laughing at Adam's stupid jokes? Was it when I cancelled our weekend away because I picked up an extra shift and she didn't say she was hurt? Was it when I forgot to ask about her presentation because I fell asleep on the couch? Or was it earlier, something small I missed entirely, some quiet moment where she realized she felt more herself somewhere I was? The night everything actually blew up, I wasn't even looking for anything. That's the messed up part. Ellie was in the shower. Her laptop was open on the coffee table because she'd been finishing a deck for a meeting. I was on my own laptop at the dining table, half working, half watching some YouTube video about a guy restoring old Game Boys. Her computer chimed. A notification banner popped up at the top of the screen. iMessage. Adam, still thinking about last night. My whole body went cold. I stared at the screen like if I looked hard enough the words would rearrange themselves into something else. Still thinking about last night. Some weird typo, some in-joke, some stupid meme. The banner faded. My heart didn't start again with it. I stood up, walked over, sat down in front of her laptop. My hands were shaking so much I had to steady them on my knees for a second. Don't do this, that same internal voice said. If you click, that's it. I clicked. The iMessage thread opened. The first thing I saw was a photo. Her back mostly, the curve of her waist familiar, my hoodie on the floor not familiar, a bed I didn't recognize. Her face wasn't visible but her hair was, messy, his hand on the small of her back. I scrolled up, lines and lines and lines, some normal work chatter. Then, Adam, I keep replaying Sat Night in my head. Ellie, do I already feel guilty enough? Adam, are allowed to want things. Ellie, I'm engaged to things, remember. Adam, things sounds boring. Ellie, shut up. Adam, make me. Further up. Adam, you could stay. Ellie, I can't, he'll notice. Adam, you said he's working nights. Ellie, not tonight. Adam, one day you'll pick yourself, Ellie, stop making this about self-care. I felt like I was reading someone else's life. Her typing style, her dumb emojis, the same tone she used with me, repurposed. When Ellie says I feel bad, it usually means, I know this is wrong but I'm doing it anyway. I used to think it was endearing in small ways, like when she'd sneak food into the cinema because I feel bad but I refuse to pay $8 for popcorn. Seeing that same phrase about my existence hit different. I don't know how long I sat there, scrolling. Long enough that the shower turned off. Long enough that I heard the bathroom door open and her bare feet on the hallway tiles. What are you doing? She asked, and there was a split second where she sounded normal, like I'd just been caught changing her Spotify playlist. Then she saw the screen. Her whole body changed, I don't know how else to put it. Her shoulders went up, her face went slack, her pupils blew wide, like an animal that's just realized it stepped into a trap. Dan, she said very quietly. I didn't say anything. I scrolled a bit more just to, prove to myself I wasn't hallucinating. There was a message from 2 nights ago. Adam, when here it feels right. Ellie, don't say that. Adam, why BC it's true. Ellie, because then I have to admit, I don't want to leave. I closed the laptop, my hands were numb. How long? I asked. My voice sounded weird, like I'd recorded it on my phone and was playing it back. She didn't pretend not to know what I meant. She didn't do the whole "what are you talking about" gaslight routine. She just backed up a step until her calves hit the edge of the coffee table, then sank down onto it and put her head in her hands. "A few months," she said. "How many is a few?" I asked. What followed was one of those awful, slow-motion conversations where you feel like you're simultaneously underwater and on fire. The kind you see in movies and think, "I'd handle that differently," until you're in it and realize you have no idea how to handle anything. She admitted to the emotional part first, like that was some kind of softer landing. "We were just talking," she said. "It started off as venting, about work, about pressure, about us. He gets it, he's been where I am. It felt good to talk to someone who wasn't inside it, you know." "Inside it," I repeated, gesturing vaguely at our apartment. "You mean me?" She flinched. "You were working nights," she said. "You were exhausted. I didn't want to dump more on you." "So you dumped it on him," I said, "and then onto his bed." She glared at me through tears. "That's not fair." "Which part?" I asked. "The part where I'm understating it." She wiped her face with the heel of her hand and took a deep breath. "I didn't go looking for this," she said. "He was just there, we clicked, and then one night after drinks we kissed. I freaked out. I told myself it was a one-off, and then we worked late again and it just happened," I finished, the words tasting like something rotten. "That's not what I—" "But it is what you said," I snapped, the first real crack in whatever calm I'd been faking. "You said it just happened, like the weather, like you were walking down the street and slipped on some ethically dubious ice and fell straight onto his dick." She recoiled. "You're being gross." "I'm being accurate," I said. She covered her face. For a second I thought she might vomit. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I am, you have to know that." I looked at her, the girl I'd met in that kitchen, all sharp comments and bright eyes. The woman sitting in front of me, hoodie damp at the collar, mascara smudged. I felt nothing, or too much. It's hard to tell the difference when you're overloaded. "When did you stop loving me?" I asked again, quieter this time. She looked up at me then like I'd slapped her. "I didn't," she said, without hesitation. "I haven't." "You're engaged in a full-body audition for someone else," I said. "You've been sneaking around with him for months. You spend all your emotional energy at work, and whatever's left you give to this guy. You come home to me when you're empty and pass out on the couch. If that's your version of love, I don't recognize it." "I still love you," she insisted, and the worst part is I think she believed it. "I do, I don't know. Somewhere along the line I started feeling numb, here, with us. And then with him I felt," she searched for the word. "Awake," she said, finally. "I make you feel asleep," I said bitterly. "That's not what I—" "But it's what it is," I said. "You felt numb with me and alive with him, so you chose alive." "I didn't choose," she said desperately. "That's the whole point, it just happened. I didn't sit down and make a pros and cons list, Dan. I didn't think, how can I hurt the person who's been there for me for 4 years? I was stressed and lonely and he was there and he made me feel like I wasn't drowning. One thing led to another and suddenly I was in too deep and I didn't know how to get out." "You could have told me," I said, "at literally any point in that paragraph." She went quiet. "I tried," she said after a moment. "You asked if we were okay that night in the kitchen. I said I felt like I was dropping balls and you told me you missed me but you didn't push. I know that's not your fault," she added quickly. "I'm just saying I didn't know how to say, hey, I feel like our life is suffocating me and I don't know if I want the future we're marching toward." It felt ungrateful. Everyone else wants what we have. The stable guy, the nice apartment, the engaged Instagram posts. I felt like a monster for even thinking I wanted more. "So instead of saying that, you found more in someone else's bed," I said. She winced. "You keep saying it like it was just about sex," she said. "It was. If it was just sex, I could've," she trailed off. "What?" I asked. Booked a hotel, ticked a box, felt guilty and moved on. She looked at me, eyes shiny. "If it was just sex," she said slowly, "I don't think I'd be so confused. I wouldn't be standing here trying to explain feelings I don't fully understand. I wouldn't be," she gestured between us, "breaking this." "You are breaking it," I said, "right now, whether you understand your feelings or not." She cried properly then, not the pretty single tear but the ugly, hiccuping kind. I sat there and watched, feeling weirdly guilty for not getting up to comfort her. That's what I would have done any other day, put a hand on her back, gotten tissues, made a joke to break the tension. This time I stayed seated. "I hate myself," she sobbed. "I hate that I did this. I hate that I hurt you. I hate that I can't even tell you why properly. I hate that I didn't stop when I had the chance. Then why didn't you? I asked. Like honestly, Ellie, at any point. After the first message that was a bit too flirty. After the first drink that went longer than it should. After that first kiss in some hallway. Why didn't you stop? Why didn't you pull back? She sniffed, took a ragged breath. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt like someone was seeing me, she said. Not Ellie who has her shit together. Not Ellie whose boyfriend works nights and who's always the responsible one. Just me. Messy and insecure and terrified of waking up at 40 with a life that looks good on paper but feels flat. I see you, I said quietly. She shook her head almost angrily. You see the best version of me, she said. The one you fell in love with. The one who makes jokes at parties and wears your hoodies and brings you coffee. I don't know if you see the part of me that wants to burn it all down sometimes. Try me, I said. You could have shown me that version. You could have told me you were scared, that you weren't sure you wanted what we were heading towards, that you needed things to change. You didn't give me the chance. I know, she said. We sat in that for a while. Toast, the cat, not a metaphor, wandered in from the bedroom, stretched, and then, because cats are assholes, jumped straight into Ellie's lap. She buried her face in his fur and cried some more. I stared at the darkened laptop screen, seeing my reflection faintly in the black. I looked older, smaller. Eventually, the practical questions arrived. They always do, even in the middle of emotional carnage. What do you want to do? She asked, voice raw. It hit me that she genuinely didn't know if this was fixable. That for all her, it just happened. She understood on some level that there were consequences she couldn't control. I don't know, I said, and that was the truest thing I'd said all night. Do you want to try to work through it? She asked. Therapy, time, whatever, I'll cut things off with him, properly, I will, I don't want to lose you. I thought about our life, the good bits, her laugh, the way she'd sing along badly to the radio. The weekend we got caught in the rain on the coast and spent an hour in a public bathroom hand-drying our clothes. The plant we kept forgetting to water. The silly arguments about cereal brands. I also thought about the messages, about her texting him from my birthday dinner, about the photo of my hoodie on someone else's floor, about when here it feels right, about her saying she felt awake with him and numb with me. I don't know if I can stay, I said slowly. I don't know if I can go to bed next to you and not picture you in his bed. I don't know if I can hear you say, I love you, without wondering who else you're saying it to in your head. She swallowed, so that's it. It might be, I said. I need time to figure that out. But I think the version of this where we magically go back to how things were doesn't exist. Even if I tried to pretend it did, I'd be lying, and we both know where lying gets us. She laughed then, this bitter little sound. I'm the liar, she said. You're the one who calls in sick because you're sad. Touché, I said. The days after that conversation were surreal. We moved around each other like ghosts. She slept in the bedroom, I took the couch. We exchanged logistics, bills, rent, who would stay and who would go, like colleagues wrapping up a project. Sometimes she'd start to speak, like she was going to say something vulnerable, then close her mouth again. I did the same. I told 2 people initially, my older sister and my friend Matt from work. My sister cried, swore, offered to help me move my stuff out at midnight if I wanted. Matt took me for beers, listened to me rant, then said, look man, you didn't cause her to cheat. You might have contributed to whatever problems were there, but you didn't make that choice. That's on her. I kept going back to that in my head, the choice. One thing led to another, sure, but between each thing were moments tiny, almost invisible, where she chose. And I didn't. That's the bit that hurt in this weirdly pure way. I'd had chances too, patients, relatives who flirted. A coworker who once drunkenly leaned in at the Christmas party. A girl at the gym who kept accidentally ending up at the treadmill next to mine. I'd never crossed that line, not because I didn't like attention, but because I didn't want to risk what I had. When did she start being willing to risk it? When did the internal scale tilt so far that our life weighed less than the rush of his attention? Did she notice the moment it tipped? Did she feel her love for me lessen? Or did she just shove that question into a corner of her mind, hoping it would dissolve if she ignored it long enough? A week after the confrontation, I found the engagement ring on the bathroom counter in a little dish we usually kept hair ties in. She'd taken it off in the shower, I guess, and just not put it back on. I stood there, toothbrush in one hand, staring at it. That stupid little circle of metal we'd saved up for, picked out together, argued about carrots over. I remember that day now with a kind of distant ache. How happy she'd looked when we found one she loved that didn't make my bank account cry. How many photos the saleswoman insisted on taking. I picked it up, it felt heavier than it should. Do you want this back? I asked her later, holding it out. She shook her head. Not right now, she said. It doesn't feel honest. I appreciate the sudden concern for honesty, I said more viciously than I meant to. Her jaw clenched. You know what I mean, she said. I do, I said. And I did. For once, we were on the same page. We couldn't pretend to be engaged like nothing had changed. In the end, I moved out. It wasn't a dramatic storm out or anything. No suitcase down the stairs, no neighbors watching. I found a room in a share house closer to the hospital. We split the bond and the furniture like we were dividing up assets after a business partnership. She kept the couch, I took the bed frame and my desk. Toast stayed with her, she'd had him before we met, and as much as I'll miss the little demon, it felt wrong to take him. On the last night, standing in the empty living room, she asked me one more time, is there any chance, later, for us? I don't know, I said. Maybe one day in some alternate universe where this didn't happen, but in this one I think this is it. She nodded, lips pressed together so hard they went white. I'm sorry, she said again. I know, I said, I believe you. Does that change anything? She asked. I thought about it, not enough, I said. So that's where I am now, in a smaller room with ugly beige walls and a window that looks onto a brick alley. My wardrobe is half the size. My desk is shoved under a shelf that someone, for reasons unknown, painted lime green. It's been 3 months since I moved. People always ask the same questions when they hear the story. Do you think she ever really loved you? Yes, I do. I think she loved me in the way she was capable of at the time. I think that love was real. I also think it wasn't enough to stop her from wanting something else when things got hard. Both can be true. Do you think she still loves you? Maybe, in some softened, distant way. We text occasionally about truly boring things, the last electricity bill that was still in both our names, a package that got sent to the old address. There's a familiarity there that doesn't vanish overnight. But love as in, I want to build a life with you and won't blow holes in it when I'm scared. No. Do you think you'll get back together? Probably not, even if I could somehow rebuild trust. I don't think we want the same kind of life. She's already posting pictures of rooftop bars again, photos of city skylines with captions about new chapters. I'm not naive enough to think those captions are about me. The hardest question, and the reason I'm posting here, is the one I keep asking myself. When did she stop loving me? Because it haunts me a bit. Not in an I want her back way, more in a what am I supposed to learn from this way. If love can fade without the person realizing, what's the point? How do you protect yourself from becoming the comfortable option someone cheats on when they feel restless? My therapist, yeah, I finally went, please hold your applause, said something that stuck with me. Maybe you're asking the wrong question, she said. Maybe it isn't, when did she stop loving me? But when did she start loving herself so little that she thought betraying her own values was an acceptable coping strategy? That reframed some things. I'd always thought of cheating as a sign someone didn't love their partner enough. Now I'm starting to see that sometimes it's also about how much, or how little, they respect themselves. How willing they are to live with the version of themselves who lies. For me, that's a hard line. I don't want to be with someone who sees their own word as negotiable, who can say, I love you in the morning and I'm at drinks with the team at night while knowing both aren't fully true. I don't know what my next relationship will look like yet. I'm not rushing into anything. I'm rediscovering stupid little parts of myself I hadn't realized I'd put on pause to accommodate someone else's moods, going for runs after work, drawing again, eating cereal for dinner without anyone sighing about actual meals. I also know going forward I'm going to pay closer attention to the quiet shifts, the dropped love you-s, the angled phones, the I feel bad s that are really, I know this is wrong but I'm enjoying it too much. Not in a paranoid way, I hope, but in a I deserve to be in a relationship where both of us say the scary stuff out loud instead of outsourcing it to secret chats way. As for Ellie, part of me will probably always picture her in that hoodie, twisting the string around her finger, saying, it just happened, while I sat there trying to rewind our life to find the exact frame where things started to unravel. I don't think I'll ever get a satisfying answer to when she stopped loving me the way I thought she did. But I'm starting to accept that I don't need that timestamp to move on. She can have her version of the story where she was lonely and overwhelmed and something just happened. I have mine, where someone I loved made a series of quiet, deliberate choices away from me and then tried to file them under fate. Somewhere in between is the truth. All I can really do now is make sure the choices I make from here, who I trust, what I ignore when I speak up, are ones I won't have to look back on and explain away with it just happened.